welcome to the Defining Your Niche podcast, where we dive into alternative assets in commercial real estate, specifically self-storage and small bay flex. Really happy today to be joined by another always smiling presence, the Director of Client Services at XPS Solutions, Shannon Charbannou. Shannon, thank you so much for coming and spending some time, and really looking forward to chatting with you for a half hour. I always start off the podcast. You know this. You're a watcher and listener of the podcast, so I appreciate it. I love this industry. Self-storage is such a special place, but it's also like when you go around the room in fourth grade and you say, what are you going to do when you grow up? There hasn't been a single person in the history of the world, unless their parent was already in self-storage, that said they were going to be in self-storage. So I'm always interested to know how people get into this incredible, unique asset class. Tell me about your journey into storage.
I actually came to storage previously from the security industry. And somehow, some way, a woman that I worked with years ago found her way to self-storage. I'll have to let her tell that story. But I had a personal crisis in my home life. And at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. And it became clear that I needed to go back to work.
Yeah.
And I was trying to decide, you're going to laugh when you hear this, but I was literally trying to decide if I was going to go get a job or if I was going to be my own employer and do home and office organization. And I bought an LLC. I started down that path, and I realized I saw a Facebook post from this woman that I used to work with that said, I might be thinking about maybe sort of having somebody in a capacity similar to this after the first of the year. This was late December 2010. And I ignored that post and then found myself praying later that day for God's direction for my life, and realized that if that post had said, I need help cleaning out my closet, I would have jumped on it in a heartbeat. But because it wasn't what I really, really wanted, I let it slide past me.
Yeah.
And so I was convicted by that. And I went back to go find that post to go have a conversation with her, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Luckily, we were still, friends from our previous world. And I texted her and I was like, am I crazy? I could have sworn that I saw that you had this thing. And my phone rang 2 seconds later and said, are you back in the game? Because I'd been home for a couple of years.
Yep.
And that was December 22nd. I interviewed on December 24th. As you can imagine, that's highly unusual. It began on Monday, January 3rd, 2011. And so my career in self-storage was born. And it didn't take me long to realize this is where I was meant to be. This is my home.
14 years and counting. That's such a phenomenal story. There's a couple questions that come out of that. You've been with XPS. That was with XPS from 2011, which is incredible in and of itself. And I'm going to go down that road and talk more deeply about your business and why it's been around for so long and so successful. Mm-hmm. I want to go down the faith side of this right now. You and I have spent Thursday morning at 7 a.m. the last couple of ISS and SSA. We joined the prayer group. And I think it's so interesting when we were at the prayer group at ISS, James Hatfield was speaking, a former podcast guest from Live Switch, and he was talking about listening, right? That idea of like opening your ears and listening to God. And I think it's so powerful and so important that you took the time to just stop and listen. And I want you to talk me through that. Like, how did you know at that time to have that presence to just slow down and let obviously it's a sign, right? Like very clearly, unless you're blind, it's clearly something that, whether you believe in God or not, it's some sort of a sign. How did Shannon Charbannou be able to have that presence at the time to just stop and listen?
I wish I could tell you. I genuinely don't know, because it is outside of my character. I will tell you, I am a get it done, lead follower, get out of the way kind of a girl. But at that time, in that moment, in that season, I would say, being refined. It was very much a trial by fire during that time. And I'm very just thankful for it. That's all I can say.
I think that's awesome. The second question that came out of that for me, there were three others. One, I'm going to ask you about the personal relationship. I want to talk about that. I've talked to you about asking about XPS, but the other one I want to talk about is you mentioned something that's wildly important. Jason Coonan is the person that's airing as we're taping this. Jason Coonan's episode just went live from Bluebird Storage up in Canada,
Mhm.
Sunbird, not Sunbird, Bluebird in the U.S. Yes, Sunbird in the US, Bluebird in Canada. I always mix that. I always want to call it Snowbird, but it's not. Jason donates a bunch of units in his Canadian portfolio, literally hundreds of units, to a nonprofit that helps people that are going through tough transitions. And
Mhm.
so I think I want to ask this question to you. How important was it for you in a season of your life when you needed storage that this industry was there and able to provide something you needed?
Man, I mean, it's so funny, and I'm so thankful to have an opportunity to tell the real truth on that because when I go and I talk to a group of people, I do tend to just say, listen, this job fell out of the sky right when I needed it, wrapped with a gift bow, is what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
But between you and I, and it's just the two of us sitting here.
Nobody watching or
Yeah,
listening.
it was a gift straight from God. And so over the years, because I mean, listen, you've worked your entire life. Has every single day of your entire career been the best day of your entire life where you just absolutely loved the company and everybody you worked with and all of that? No, that wouldn't be real life. But do I still consider it an absolute gift from God? The exact moment that I needed it, and has it
Yeah.
provided for me and my family every day since then? And is it a wonderful place to be? Absolutely.
So I'll interject here. I got into storage in August of 2021, so I'm not even 4 years in. You got me by a little ways. I've been in a lot of different industries. And yes, there are days that I am not super excited about what's going on in my day to day work. However, the overall feeling in this industry is just so different. So I want you to take me through your perspective on it, having had jobs before and having worked in other industries. How different is it from what you've done otherwise? And then the next question I would ask to add to that is, what do you attribute that to? Why is storage so different than anything else?
Wow, I wish. Well, I'm going to come back to that one in a second because I might need a minute to think that through. But I will tell you, my previous experience was in corporate security for a very large multinational corporation with, at the time, probably about 35,000 US employees. And I teased that I didn't have a name. I had an employee ID number, and for
Yeah,
security purposes, I will not share it here on the internet. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of burned onto the inside of my eyeballs. Trust me when I tell you, 15 years later, I know that number. Um, it's my number, right? And
that's crazy.
the last time that I attended any kind of a conference with them, one of the key note speakers was speaking about corporate espionage and the repercussions if you say lost your laptop or something like that. There was jail time and fines, and like it was not the same atmosphere as when you go to it was not
Uh,
the same. So when I stepped into self-storage, frankly, it was years before I went to my first conference, and
mhm.
I was hiding, I would say, behind a curtain. I very much wanted to be in the background. If you had told me at that time that I would be sitting here with a microphone in front of me speaking to people, no, I would have just said no. And also, if you had said that was going to be a very big part of what I do for a living,
Yep.
um, well, listen, that was not my plan. I'll just,
That's
I
great.
would,
Whoever's plan you attribute it to, you and I are of similar mind in that we attribute it to the guy upstairs, but
yes.
that's amazing. And I want to go down that now because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you, to me, having known you for a short period of time, strike me as someone that is naturally good at creating personal relationships. So it doesn't surprise me in the least bit that you work in client services because you are a person that when I look at, I'm like, that's someone, and this is a skill God gave me, and I'm thankful for it every day to kind of naturally be able to create relationships with people, right? It's not listen, there's always those people that you don't get along with, but for whatever reason, I've been able to create relationships with a broad range of people. And you kind of strike me as that person. So I was going to ask you, how did you develop that skill set? Now I'm even more intrigued because you're telling me that's not a skill set you started out with.
Well, and I think you're talking about two different things, though. I think I have always had the ability to do that one on one.
Got it.
I do have a genuinely caring nature, but I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, very much an introvert, and I get my breath when I am alone. And so I have everybody teases me because I have a small house and I think it could be smaller. My husband disagrees. I have, I have my little spaces in my small house. So it's not even enough to be in my small home. I'm in like my chair,
Yeah.
like my side of the bed. Those are my safe places. And if I could, if left to my own devices, I would be quite content to just sit in the corner and do my spreadsheets and send my emails. But that's not the path that was laid out for me, right?
Yeah.
And I do tease. I have been doing client relations since all the way back in the 1900s, right? One form or fashion.
Yeah.
Caring for clients is just it's a part of who I am, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And but the speaking part and the doing it with large groups of people part, that is definitely new, I would say, in the last 5 years, and was a stretch, just truly a stretch.
I love that. What gave you the purpose to take that stretch? Because that is not an easy thing. That so many people they're more scared of public speaking than they are of dying. And I go to SSA shows and ISS, and you're on the trade show floor, front and center at the XPS booth, with streams of people coming to talk to you. I mean, that's public speaking 101. You're about as public as you can get. How did you push yourself to be comfortable in that, or maybe comfortable is the wrong word, to be able to perform and do what it is you do? Because quite frankly, looking from the outside in, I would never guess that you got to go to a small space and recharge after that.
I do for sure. And thank you for getting it. I really do have to like get in a ball and stay in a ball. That's what my husband calls it. Just
I understand completely because at trade shows, I will go to my hotel room for an hour at a time
mm,
and just lock myself in the room and not answer a phone, and not because I go all out when I'm out, and I got to go back and fill the battery again. So I 100% empathize with it, but I'm intrigued and interested to understand, how do you have the personal growth power to go do that?
um well, okay, it is going to be personal. My answer is going to be very personal there. I
I promised myself I wasn't going to get so personal that I made you cry like when I had Jennifer Downer on the
I
podcast.
will
So
try.
I don't want to do that. And I'm just going to
I know.
preface and say I'm trying very hard not to get that personal. But listen, I this part of my podcast is for people to get to know the other people in our industry. And I think that knowing people's story is far more powerful in the long run than just knowing what they do as a company. So sorry to pry a little bit,
That's
but I'm going to
okay.
dig a little.
Just wanted to give you some warning that this answer comes from Shannon Charbannou. This is not an XPS answer. If that
Love it.
helps.
Love it.
Um,
Love it.
I told you that when I began in this industry, I was having a personal crisis in my home life, and that personal crisis led me to a program called Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered recovery group. It's similar to like 12-step programs, AA, NA, things like that, but they say it is for any hurt, habit, or hang up. And I had a very significant hurt from the trauma that was going on in my life at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And so I really do credit that program with
I
teaching me
love
how
it.
to speak, to being comfortable to stand up in front of people. The way I look at it now is if I can speak in front of a large group of people and tell what I call my awful uglies, like all of the most horrible things you've ever considered in your whole life, stand up on stage and speak that to a room full of people. I can talk about self storage all day long now, right? And that it just
Yep.
gave me a voice, I guess, and taught me that the floor was not going to open up and swallow me. And frankly, and this is kind of hard for me, but I got positive feedback and I didn't realize how unnecessary, I guess that was. And so I guess that's part of the personal part too, is that you're saying nice things about me speaking out loud. And it probably took me a good 10 years to go, little old me before
I
I could
love it.
say, you know what, thank you. Thank you. It is a different kind of skill set than I came to the table with, but I've worked hard at it. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, that's awesome. Kudos to that, by the way. I happened to be listening to a clip from Jim Rohn this morning, who was like a precursor of Tony Robbins in the personal development space, and was talking about the power of personal development and how really what else is there?
Right.
Right? If you're not continuing to improve yourself, what is it you're doing in your life? So kudos, because the reality is a lot of people don't. And so, you deserve a pat on the back for that, because when you face a fear that's that real, it's challenging. And so and shocks me, quite frankly, as I said, because having known you for a short period of time,
Mhm.
would have never guessed that that was something that was challenging to you. So goes to a whole nother question, which I love to ask about having support systems around you. But I'm going to go back because I still got two questions I want to ask, and we'll circle back to this idea. But you got the job at XPS from another relationship.
I did.
And so, and now you're a director of client services, right? And talk to me about the power of relationships and maybe Shannon Charbanneau's concept of how to develop those in the right way.
Yeah. Every relationship that you have is one-on-one, right? You might be in a group with people, but at the end of the day, when I'm sitting and having a conversation with you, you're the one that I care about right this
Yeah.
second. And when it comes to a business relationship, there are multiple facets to that because I can really genuinely enjoy you as a person and have you not be the right employee or the right client for our company, or like, those don't necessarily have to be the same thing. Um, it comes down to caring, I think, to actual genuine caring that the job is being done well and that you're caring for the people. And yes, I do. I maintain, I mean, incredible network of people going
Yes,
back
you do.
to high school, right? I have friends on Facebook, from that I wasn't even really friends with in high school, but I would consider them wonderful friends now.
Yeah.
And my first job, I was there for 10 plus years with an incredible group of people. That was where I met the woman who ultimately got me the job here at XPS. I have the same, I have a mentor that is in the security industry to this day who was just texting with her the other day. I haven't worked with her in 13, 15 years, right?
Awesome.
Um, but that just comes down to caring, and I genuinely do. And the thing is, it's really easy for me to do that because I feel genuinely cared for by them. So I don't know. It's reciprocal and it's wonderful.
I think that's awesome. You've kind of naturally transitioned me back into XPS. And first of all, I want for those people that don't know XPS, give us a little overview of who you guys are and what you do.
Sure. So XPS has been in the industry since 2000. So this is our 25th anniversary. And we provide call center services for operators that aren't REITs. Essentially, anybody, if you're not with a REIT or you're not operating your own internal call center with no need for backup services, because a lot of our clients have a call center and just use us for overflow and, to make sure they catch all those calls. We're handling phone calls, live chats, live video with Live Switch with James,
Yeah.
and others with KISS. We're integrated with them, and we're working on another one with a company in Texas called StoreTech Anytime. We offer remote managers in addition to our standard customer support team and rentals team, and we have more stuff coming. So I'm going to tease right now and just say maybe stop by the booth when we get to SSA in the fall and ask us what's next, because the cool thing about this is when I started here, we were living in a world where people were faxing us sheets of their inventory for the day. We're a long, long, long way past that, right? And in order to do that, we actually had to evolve into a tech company, and our development team is the largest department that we have,
Wow.
outside of actual call center agents.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal to be integrated with all of these wonderful partners in this industry, all the different self storage companies, all of the SMS providers, the video providers, all of that. And that's a relationship as well.
This strikes close to my heart. My first job, by the way, someone else who has been in client relations in the 1900s, had a typewriter
Oh, yeah.
at my first job, right? With triple ply paper where you typed and you had three different sheets. That was at a TV station in Presque Isle, Maine, which brings back some memories. Ironically, the town that our company owns two self-storage facilities in, which is kind of funny. Never would have ever thought that would happen, but the point of what I'm trying to get is that between 1997, when I had a job with a typewriter, and 2025, the advancement of technology has been, like, to call it rapid would be an understatement.
Radical.
And so for you guys who are on the front line of this, right? Because client services is the front of the technology tree, especially today in self-storage, with how most people find a self-storage facility to rent from. How challenging is it for you guys to stay ahead of the curve, to make sure that you're using the latest and the greatest without, losing the customer service that you guys have sort of built your brand on?
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
sort of, you have built your brand on.
thank you.
You're welcome.
That that felt really nice. I appreciate that. Um, well, yeah, I mean, I will give credit there to our CEO. It is not an inexpensive uh, venture to decide that you're going to stay on the leading edge of technology. And, you know, there have been many times where we will come. I mean, there's many integrations that we have where we had to come and say, hey, we need to take the development time and resources. Now, we, as anybody who has a development team, you have to decide which projects are going to be first, literally based on revenue. This is not going to be a surprise to anybody.
Nope.
There's more people standing in line for one thing than another, right?
Except for residents and planning board members at local townships. They don't care about the revenue side. I'm going to say that from first day. You talked about days where you're not loving your job. Let's just say that planning boards
Yeah.
and town residents don't care about revenue. Doesn't matter that much. Anyway, I hate to interject, but I had to add some levity to my
That's
life
okay.
today.
That gives me my prayer request for later for you. So
I love it, and I will take all the prayers you can give me.
I appreciate the color on your comment from earlier. Um, but for when it comes to our development, obviously it makes it easier for me to go to the development team and say, I have X number of clients who are waiting for this, or we have an opportunity for a client with this many stores and things like that. But yeah, it's not insignificant. And I think, it always takes longer than you think it's going to. Development is
Yeah.
not a linear path, and there's no way that you can say we will be done on X date.
Yeah.
That's just not, it's not real life, right? And so we can get into trouble with that because we're doing that with like 10 different providers all at the same time. Each of those providers has their own client base, and our client relations team, my team that I love, that's a lot of information for them to just kind of carry on in there. And
Yeah.
if I'm talking to you, this is the information that I provide to you because that's based on your SMS. But if I'm talking to you, here is the information I have for you based on your SMS. And that has been, it's a significant resource that needs to go into that for sure. Both personnel, in development, time, servers, all the things.
So we're taping this on a Thursday morning. It's May 8th today. California had their hearing on SB 706 on Tuesday night, I think. Might have been Monday night. This week's kind of blended together. And this kind of goes to what you're talking about with servicing your clients and making sure that you're ahead of the game. I'm interested to know how you guys have handled over the last couple of years. I brought up SB 706 because it's largely thought to be in response to the pricing strategies that have been guided largely by the REITs. If Extra Space or CubeSmart or Public or NSA or anybody else big is in your market, chances are you've had to deal with pricing strategies that have cut introductory rates
Mhm.
and then relied on ECRIs, existing customer rate increase, which was funny, by the way, listening to that hearing on Tuesday and hearing one of the opponents literally say ECRIs, which is a term I'd never heard of until a year and a half ago. There's a question at the end of this, which is, how do you serve your customers
Mhm.
in this environment where their competition may be cutting prices to a place that just reasonably doesn't allow them to run their business the same way?
Right. I mean, it's difficult because remember, we're here to, we say fly air cover, right? I'm here to follow your rules for your
Yep.
business, right? So we
Yep.
have thousands of facilities and we do it your way for your facility and your way for your facility and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That information largely resides in their software management system, right? We rely on them to do their pricing strategy in their system.
Yep.
Our role is to simply integrate to it to see live information. So every time a new call comes, we get this information. It might have been different 10 minutes ago, but this is what's
Yeah.
happening today. And again, it is that development portion as SMS providers are they're following that same trend to allow like say value-based pricing for their clients. Well, that's not something that was previously a part of the API that we use to connect to the client. So that becomes an issue for us to develop on our end so that when our clients do utilize those resources from their supplier that we have the ability to use that as well. We have always also had the promotion, the ability to utilize their promotions. And most of the software systems also allow them to set their promotions such that it either applies to specific units with specific levels of availability, and sometimes even things that show to their in-house team, right? Their own manager or their own call center, but not necessarily to a third party, right? And so again, our role here is not to tell you how to run your business, but simply to do our portion. Now, are we consultative? Sometimes if someone comes and says that, we're going to be the low cost leader in this industry and we're going to do 90 days at zero rent, we might tell them, listen, we've seen other people, have success in this way, and things like that.
The gentle nudge.
Yeah, and well, it's kind of like, I heard somebody talking about the other day where they got drawings from an architect who wasn't in the self-storage industry, and they didn't understand the industry, and the drawings, technically, I'm sure were accurate. What
Yep.
they weren't were drawn by somebody who is aware of how wide a U-Haul truck is and how
Yeah.
likely it is that the person driving it has never driven one before or anything that
Yeah.
large before. And so while technically accurate is good, it may not be best,
The
right?
right fit.
So we have people on our team with years and years of self-storage experience, right? My experience in self-storage is anecdotal from a third-party vendor perspective.
Yeah.
But the good news for anybody who wants to use XPS is I am not XPS. We have an entire team of people who are all really, really, really working hard at what they do. And years of experience help us say, oh, okay, Thaddeus, I'll put that down here for you. Now, I did wonder, did you consider X, Y, and Z?
Yep.
Right? And sometimes they say, oh, yes, we did. Here's why we did it. And we're like, great. But sometimes they say, you can do that? Yeah,
Yep.
there's a switch in your system that allows you to, sometimes it's simple, like add a convenience fee. If you're getting hammered by your fees and you want to pass that along, you can, and they might not have known that. So,
Yeah. It goes to a point, and I love the way you guys handle these situations because, quite frankly, in every industry, every company doesn't provide that level of service. That's I think fair to say, where you're kind of going above and beyond what you're hired to do. Right? You're hired to answer the phone. You're hired to be the call center. You're not hired to be a client advisor, but kind of speaks to you guys in general. And quite frankly, in my experience in storage, pretty common across the industry that people are so willing to help above and beyond what you might normally expect. I'm going to ask this question. I asked it earlier and we didn't get to an answer necessarily, and maybe you still don't have one, but that's okay. Do you have any insight onto why storage is like this?
hmm. I mean, my only insight is based on just my personal experience that when I came here, people put their arms around me, right?
Yeah.
And so when people do that for me, it's really easy for me to turn around and do that to the next person. And I'd like to think that then it's really easy for them to turn around and do it to the next. And I am very blessed that while I do travel quite a bit, this is a busy travel season, especially right now. There are days where I'm packing to go on yet another trip, and my husband is standing there chatting with me, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And I tell him the city.
Foxwoods Resort in
Yeah, I
Connecticut.
mean, listen, and it is not glamorous, you guys. Come on,
I trust me, I know it's a lot of walking across a lot of floors.
yes, it's not glamorous, but I am blessed to be able to tell him I'm going to the family reunion in this city today, right?
Love it.
Because the people that are there, they will be, if something were to happen to my career today, those relationships would still be there, right?
Yeah.
And those are clients, previous clients, future clients,
Yeah.
vendor partners, people I don't have anything to do with, and they just, they just are nice people. And why wouldn't I want to have a relationship with them? And I'm going to back up to your previous statement about thinking that our team goes above and beyond when they provide kind of those consultative services. And I'm going to say I'm going to have to disagree with you, because it is absolutely part of their responsibility. They're not customer service people, they are client relationship managers,
Love it.
right?
Love it. Love it.
So when we have, and we internally call it client experience, because that's what we do here. We're all about
Yeah.
experience. But the point is to have a good relationship, right? Good
Love it.
relationships are what help you when things are imperfect. If there is a problem in development, or it does take longer, or internet goes down, or just crazy things you can't control, if you don't have a relationship, if you have a task driven, interaction based level of relationship with someone, you can't overcome that. And
I'm smiling from ear to ear. I told you I listened to Jim Rohn earlier, and he's got a famous saying that success leaves clues, right? And as I'm listening to you, it's so obvious why XPS has become as successful as they have. Because while you're saying that's part and parcel of their responsibility in the role, the reality is that that was set out from the beginning in you guys' mission as a company, right? It was obvious that you didn't see yourself as just, hey, we're going to answer the phone for you. You saw yourself as, hey, we're going to be your partner in making this business successful. Here's the role we're going to play best, but we're going to bring everything we can to that. And that's a clue to how do you get successful? Well, you go all in, right? You give everything you can to each and every client. And it makes me smile as someone who's been an entrepreneur for 25 years, to see people who get it and go do. It's not easy. It's hard work. It's hard work to have that level of service to customers. So kudos, but I'm smiling because now I understand when I see the XPS booth at a trade show why you guys are always so busy, and why people talk so highly of you.
thank you for that. Yeah, it's funny. We've grown a lot. When I came here in 2011, we weren't answering for thousands of facilities, and I was the client relations. The singular client relations
Singular.
person.
That's great. I
Um,
was going to ask you that. You're begging me to ask. Listen, we're over 30 minutes, so I'm gonna say thank you because I try to keep this to 30 minutes to honor people's time. But I want to ask this question: how rapid has the growth been given the technological advance and the kind of move to more remote management and less on-site manager answering every phone call? And do you expect that to continue for the foreseeable future, that growth rate?
I do. It has been cyclical. There have been some ups and downs. We've lost some significant clients, particularly when they decide to build their own internal call
Internal.
center. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's so hard because again, we have wonderful relationships with them. I'm going to throw like Platinum Storage out there. Wonderful group of people led by fantastic team members. And sometimes all you can say is, by golly, go forth and be successful. That's what I want
Yeah.
for you. Did it hurt my revenue a little bit that month? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure did.
Love
Um,
it.
but at the end of the day, a rising tide raises all ships, right? And
Amen.
so what I want, and what I tell if you see me at a trade show and you don't hear me say these words, I'd be shocked. But my answer is, it costs you a lot of money as an owner operator to make your phone ring. Please just answer it well. And if you can't, call
Yeah.
me and we will
And
help.
we'll do it for you.
Right. Well, and it's not,
Love it.
we'll do it for you, or we'll just help you. Right.
Most powerful message my business mentor ever taught me, who also happened to be my martial arts instructor, but an amazing business person, is answer the phone. It seems so simple. And yet, when I
Shock.
took that advice to heart and really started answering the phone instantly,
Mhm.
the success level of my business increased incredibly rapidly and dramatically. So it seems so simple, but it's not, which is why you guys, I think, are so well respected in the industry and so utilized, quite frankly. I'm going to wrap up, Shannon. I could keep talking to you for another hour, but I have stuff to do, and I know you have plenty of stuff to do. We will certainly circle up again at some point and have another conversation. I will just share with the whole audience. I'm having a rough day from a work standpoint. It has been not my favorite day ever. And I can't even express to you how grateful I am to have you come on for 35 minutes and get to smile and get to laugh and get to share upbeat and positive stories. So I thank you for that so much and looking forward to that. I'm not going to the New England Trade Show, unfortunately. I don't know if you're coming to Atlantic City, but
I
if
am.
you,
I'll be in
all right,
Mid-Atlantic and New England.
I'll make sure I get down to Atlantic City and we'll get a chance to pray together a little bit and have some fun. So I appreciate you so much for coming on and continued success and continued being you and doing the great work you do.
Thank you so much, Thaddeus. I appreciate you having me here and giving me the opportunity. And hopefully somebody will see us and love us.
Listen, that's all for this week's edition of the Defining Your Niche podcast. She's Shannon Charbannou, Director of Client Services for XPS. If you need a third-party call center, reach out to her. You'll see her contact information scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I'm Thaddeus Campbell. I build small bay industrial flex buildings across the country. You got 4 to 10 acres of land and an infill site, reach out to me. I'd love to take a look at it. Special thanks to my guys at PropRise for sponsoring the podcast. They've been such an amazing support to me, so always want to be appreciative of them. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed laughing with us for the last half hour or you learned something valuable for your life or your business, give us some support. We always appreciate that. We'll see everyone next week.